Okay, fair enough. I have a little bit of a problem. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys what I've learned while trying to cope with my problem, and hopefully help educate you guys on what tripod actually makes sense to buy so you don't end up with quite as many as I have. Before we jump in though, I need to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Squarespace. So I've been building my website from the very beginning with Squarespace. I use it because it's easy and it's really easy to get started. If you would like to experiment with it, see if you can build your own website, go over to squarespace.com/Nick Page and you can start your free trial today. So I've had an unhealthy obsession with trying to find the perfect tripod. Tripods and camera bags, it's kind of my problem. And it was only made worse when I became a professional photographer and I could call buying stuff like this a business expense. Yeah. In this video, I wanted to share with you guys everything that I've learned from not only owning so many tripods, but also shooting around so many other people that use different tripods. I've seen them all because of all the workshops that I lead. I've seen every single tripod out there. So in this video, we're gonna break down what my recommendations are for each specific use case. Everybody has a different set of needs from a tripod. And in this video, I'm gonna try to break down what my recommendations are for each one of those specific needs. So the first thing that I wanna do is talk about each of the tripods that I actually currently own and some of the ones that I've used in the past but no longer own. So my very first good tripod purchase was actually an Enduro AT2 series tripod. It was an aluminum tripod. It served me pretty well for a long time. I abused it, and for the price, it was a pretty good tripod. I hated that it had a center column, and I actually chopped off my center column. That's one of the things, one of my personal biases is that I hate center columns. Another bias that I have is that I don't like flip locks. So it's important to, as you listen to me rant and ramble about tripods, to know my personal biases. I don't like flip locks. I don't like Manfrotto style quick release plates, and I don't like center columns. After that Enduro tripod, I switched over to a Feisal tripod. That was the Feisal 3472. That is a large carbon fiber tripod. And I had many problems with that. For a long time, I recommended it until those problems started to come to the surface. The leg lock mechanisms never functioned properly for me. They kept getting bound up. Feisal, to their credit, fixed it a whole bunch of times, but in the end, it never really worked for me. Since then, they've actually changed the mechanism, but because of my bad experiences with that tripod, I no longer recommend that to anybody. After all of my problems with that Feisal tripod, that was what inspired me to go out and to spend the incredible amount of money that it takes to get one of these. This is a Really Right Stuff 34L. The 34L is a long, very tall tripod. It's carbon fiber. It has 42 or 38 millimeter tube size, and it's a beast, and it still functions really well. I've owned this tripod for 4 years now, 3.5, 4 years, and I've taken it all around the world, and it has served me incredibly well. It does require some maintenance like all tripods do, but overall I've been incredibly happy with this tripod throughout that length of time. So it begs the question, why would I, after getting this tripod, why would I experiment with anything else? Well, the problem is it's heavy. It's very heavy. The next tripod that I got after that was this. This is a FLM, what is it, CP26. What's nice about it is it has a center column that can be removed, which was a big deal for me. That's one of my personal biases. It's a 5-section tripod. The more sections you have, the shorter it can fold up, but it can still get to a decent operating height. I do like this tripod for how compact it is. But after a while, I grew to miss the ratcheting action of the leg locks. That's another thing that I really like is when you have something like this Really Right Stuff, when you pull it up to the top angle for the leg, it ratchets into place, and then it'll click down into each segment. So it makes it very fast to set up your leg angles. I really like that, and I missed that about this. I was also using this as my main vlogging tripod. So because I'm filming myself, I need a lightweight tripod that I can actually hold out in front of me. It served pretty well as a video tripod, but I felt that it was just a little bit too undersized to be my main stills tripod when I'm traveling. So even though it's a travel tripod, I felt it was a little too small for that. So in comes the 2 series. This is a 2.4 tripod from Really Right Stuff. By switching to this guy, I got the leg ratcheting that I've always missed, and it's a really nice size for anytime you're gonna go hiking. When you're hiking, you don't want to be packing one of these big guys. Those are just far too heavy. This is a much more manageable size anytime you have to walk any distance to your photo shoot. So this has been my main tripod anytime that I'm flying anywhere, because it fits on my bag much more easily going through airports, and anytime I'm hiking anywhere. And then for the longest time, this was my vlogging camera. Then I found this cute little guy. So this is actually a Gitzo. I got this used. This is a Gitzo GT 0530. I have no idea what those numbers mean, but the end result is a very, very light tripod. This tripod comes in at 1.4 pounds, I believe, or maybe it's a pound and a half. It is incredibly light, but even though it's so light, because it has a center column, it'll actually go to about chin height, which is just fine for recording videos. And it's so much easier to hold out with one arm when vlogging. So this has become my main vlogging tripod. It's much lighter than this guy, but it gets taller. So I really like this tripod for video. And then this past year, FLM sent me this tripod. This is a CP38 tall 4-section tripod, and I fell in love with this after using it for quite a while. When I was using it for the review, I just found myself preferring using this over my Really Right Stuff. Part of it is simply because the leg lock mechanism is easier to grab. So it ratchets just like I like, but it's easier to grab. So it's much easier to grab this tab than it is on the Really Right Stuff. The Really Right Stuff is a little bit more recessed and a little bit more difficult to access. Plus, the size of this base plate makes it really easy to get your hand in there. The size is probably also the biggest downside to this, because it's got a larger apex. It makes it larger around up here at the top. But after all of that, this is not only a little bit lighter than my Really Right Stuff, but it's also way, way cheaper. So this has definitely been a tripod that I've been recommending to a lot of people. Another thing that I gained with this tripod is these metal twist locks. So the nice part about having an all metal twist lock is the fact that the rubber on the twist lock won't come delaminated. There are times when like your tripod gets wet and you're really like over tightening your legs down because you have to in order to, not have your legs slide around. Tripods that have a rubber ring around their twist lock oftentimes will come delaminated, and then you have to replace it. And like all Really Right Stuff tripods, the parts are not cheap. So that's another thing that I gained from this. So this guy is actually not mine. We gave this away during the review for this. This is the Pro Media Gear TR344L. It's also a very, very good tripod. I'm not sure that I would recommend this over the FLM, simply because the price is right up there with the Really Right Stuff, which puts it above $1,000, which is a lot of money to pay. Also because it doesn't have the ratcheting action on this top leg lock. And when you're paying that much for a tripod, you want it to have all of the features, available. I really missed the leg locking mechanism when I was using this. So what I want to do is I want to talk about each typical scenario, the typical set of needs for a tripod. And I want to give my recommendations. There's other tripods beyond what I own that I would recommend to some people. So the first thing is, I know these are all incredibly expensive tripods. So what happens if you're looking for a really good tripod on a budget? So on a budget, none of these are actually what I would recommend. Because I'm lucky enough to get to do this for a living, I kind of tend to gravitate towards the best. I'm an elitist. Yeah. And so I tend to gravitate towards the Really Right Stuff, or the Really nice stuff, the really expensive stuff. The tripod that I would recommend people look at if they're wanting a good tripod on a budget is made by Colorado Tripod Company. I believe it's the Centennial tripod. So they're 2 series tripod, and it's incredibly well made. It's lightweight. It's a nice kind of all around tripod. It does have a center column, unfortunately, but you can remove it. And it comes in at $299, which is a very, very good deal. At least that's what it comes in at the time of making this video. So on a budget, I would definitely encourage people to check out the Centennial tripod from Colorado Tripod Company. So when it comes to big, sturdy, and beefy tripods, let's say you're shooting with telephoto lenses a lot, maybe you're shooting in, close to the car, big rushing water, like you just want big, sturdy, and as much stability as you can get. There's 4 brands to look at, in my opinion. There's Really Right Stuff, which I've used a lot and liked a lot. There's FLM, which I am currently loving probably the most because of the cost savings. There's Pro Media Gear, which is another American company. Really Right Stuff, Pro Media Gear, they're American companies. Pro Media Gear kind of has its own styling, its own thing going on, but you do lose some of the features that I like. And then there's Gitzo. Gitzo, I've never really loved just because I find the apex areas to be a little bit too heavy, the materials that they use aren't really my favorite. What would my main recommendation be? I would say that if money is no object, Really Right Stuff you're never going to regret. And they do tend to have, if you're living in the United States anyways, they probably have some of the best customer service you can get. It's a small company from the United States, and their customer service is really, really good. FLM, however, is my number 1 recommendation, just simply because of the cost savings. Not only does it feel a little bit like an upgrade because of the metal twist locks, because of the really easy to grab pull style ratcheting top levers, and because of the really big top plate, but you're also saving $300 to $400. So it's really hard to not recommend FLM. The only downside is these are difficult to get in Europe and in the UK, because this particular one, which is the Mark II version of these tripods, the original ones were quite a bit different. They can be a little bit more challenging to acquire because they're coming out of Canada, and the customer service might take a little bit of a hit just because it's such a small company. They don't have a huge amount of people answering phones all the time and stuff. But I've been very, very happy with my FLM. So let's say you're looking for a really, really light tripod setup. It's going to be your main and only tripod when going on backpacking trips or something like that. You want a nice combination of stability, but you just want it really, really light. So there's two main tripods that I would recommend you look at. It's one from actually Feisal. So Feisal has this 3442, I believe. It's called their tournament tripod, and it comes in at 2.4 pounds. Incredibly light for how tall it is and for how big the apex area is. Everybody that's had it has really liked it. I've played around with them a lot. I've seen them a lot on workshops, and friends own them and stuff. They're really incredibly light for how sturdy they are. It comes at a cost of, stability. It's not going to be as sturdy as something like this, but it's a lot lighter. The other one I would take a look at is FLM actually has a 3.0. I'll bring up a graphic of which one it is, but it's actually coming in at the exact same weight as that Feisal tripod, which is 2.4 pounds, which makes it very, very light and a very comparable price. But I would probably argue that the FLM is going to have better quality, but I actually haven't seen that particular tripod model in person, so it's hard to fully recommend it over the Feisal. But I have had issues with Feisal in the past, but when it comes to just super light, compact tripod, that's going to be one you look at. So now talking about kind of a medium size all-around tripod, you don't need something as large as these, but you do just want one good, all-around tripod that's going to travel well, carry well. So for me, that is the Really Right Stuff 2.4 tripod. This comes in again at about $1,000. I know not everybody wants to spend that. On a little bit more of a budget, you could look at the Enduro tripods. I really like their Stealth series. I would take a look at either the FLM or the Colorado Tripod Centennial tripod. So the FLM is going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're going to gain the ratcheting mechanism. I really, really like the FLM tripods. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Like I said, I've been building my website with Squarespace from the very beginning. And what I like so much about Squarespace is the fact that you don't have to know how to code or anything like that in order to use it. I really like the e-commerce functions in Squarespace. It allows me to sell all my workshops. I can sell prints. I can, display my galleries in a way that actually looks good. And you don't have to spend tons of time trying to use, some kind of other building platform. You don't need to know how to code or anything like that. So if you go to squarespace.com/Nick Page, you can start your 14-day free trial. If you decide that you want to get going with Squarespace, you can use the offer code NickPage, and that's going to get you 10% off your first purchase. So thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. So it used to be that if money was no object, I always recommended Really Right Stuff tripods. I've always felt that they were pretty much the best in the business, and they're really still close to that. I mean, I don't regret my purchases at all. They've held up really well. The only issues I've ever had are some of these rubber pieces coming delaminated from the plastic underneath, easily fixed with a little bit of epoxy or super glue. But I kind of prefer my FLM tripod now, and especially when you consider that it's so much cheaper. I like the pull levers better. I love that they're metal twist locks. I like the big base plate. They're just really good tripods. So make sure if you are looking at these FLMs that you look at the Mark II versions. The Mark I versions are a completely different tripod, and there's a lot of upgrades from the Mark I to the Mark II. So when you're looking at these, make sure that you're looking at that. All right, so hopefully this helps. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two from my mental illness, learn from my mistakes. Remember that you buy nice or you buy twice, or in my case, you buy 7 or 8 times. So hopefully this helps, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.